Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. So as you might see, I'm actually in China now with a 13-hour time difference. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to have this opportunity to speak with everyone here. And so the topic is about the store economy, the value of mobility in retail on wheels. This is a joint work with Junyu from UT Austin. Junyu is my academic sister. We both graduated from Berkeley, working with Professor McGill quite a few years ago. So this is a working paper. It's currently under review, and I really hope to get some feedback from you guys. So please feel free to interrupt me at any time during your talk. All right, so let me start with some motivation about this work. So over the past several years, we have all seen a lot of retail channel innovations, right? So for example, like buy online, pick up in store, implemented by many companies, or the other way around. You can try you can try clothes in physical showrooms and order it online and get it delivered, like ModCloth and many other companies. Or you can buy online and get your stuff fulfilled and delivered by a shopper like Instacart, right? So these are all the omni-channel retailing innovations that are quite amazing. But notice that they are all limited within two territories, the brick and mortar stores and the internet, right? So they're all about the innovations around these two territories. What about a third option? What about the urban open spaces? What about the vast open spaces in our cities? And how about self-driving vending stalls running in those urban open spaces? So this is not science fiction at all. It's given all the booming technologies about this autonomous driving, etc., it becomes a reality. So if you Google this company called RoboMart, they're making small robots. They're actually doing this business. So what is that? So basically, if you are a customer, when you want to buy something, you just open your smartphone, pull up this app, and call a mobile store. So instead of going to the brick and mortar store, you call a mobile store to come to you, and you just walk outside your home and wait for this mobile store to come to you and enjoy shopping and pick your favorite apples, bananas, etc. And once you're done with shopping, you can just let it go. You can just check out and let it go. So yeah, so I was quite amazed by this new business model. So this is something beyond the traditional territories of retailing, right? So how about we use this urban open spaces to do retailing? So yeah, so can it really be the future? So far, this company is called, so this idea has been launched and advocated by this big retail chain in the United States, Stop Shop in Boston since 2 years ago. So those people, they advocated this is business model as easy as Amazon, as quick as Uber, or they phrase it like a Amazon Go, but they're on wheels, right? So that's basically the idea is the stores are autonomous. There are no people manning the stores. Plus, they're on wheels. So indeed, as they advertise this business idea, they are very convenient. They address the consumer's desire to select their own fresh produce. And basically, it is convenient because they actually bring the stores to the customers instead of letting customers to go to the stores, right? So I think this idea sounds very promising, and so we were really motivated to see whether this idea is good or not from a operations perspective. So we are doing operations. So indeed, at the first thought, those this business model can be really amazing, right? Can it really be the future as a third pole of the future retail in addition to brick and mortar stores and internet? So I think apparently there are two merits. The first one is mobility, right? Basically, as those guys claim that those stores, they are mobile. So because they are mobile, the stores come to you and you can gain this touch and feel shopping experiences without traveling a long distance to some brick and mortar stores. So as a customer, you can really enjoy this convenience. The second merit of this mobile retail, oh, by the way, so I'll turn on interchangeably, I call this store economy. So basically, it's using mobile stores to enable a new retail paradigm. So the second merit is the asset lightness, right? So by detaching those stores from fixed real estate, right? So we can really make it cheap without paying, owning or renting some real estate property in our big cities is very expensive. So with mobile stores, we don't need to worry about it. So however, these two merits come hand in hand with two operational challenges. Think about it. So the cost to pay for mobility is that as the operator of this business model, you really have to run your mobile stores here and there a lot, right? You need to reposition your stores to meet customers in the city. And second, the customers have to wait, right? So after they call the store, they have to wait for the store to arrive. If you really want to reduce the customer wait, then probably you want customer to go to the store a little bit. So the store and the customer can meet somewhere in the middle. But yeah, that's a compromise, right? The customer in that case have to walk a little bit. So these are all the operational disadvantages. And the challenge comes along with the asset lightness is that those are small vehicles, right? You really cannot carry too many inventories. Because of a limited inventory, you really have to, when a business model is popular, when there are a lot of customers, it means that you really have to frequently replenish the products in a vehicle, right? So when the demand is very high, probably this cost of inventory replenishment may offset the merits of asset lightness. So we really need to take a careful look about the merits and the challenges. Okay, any questions so far? And feel free to interrupt me at any time. All right, so based by observing all these trade-offs, the research question of this paper is whether and how to efficiently run a store economy operations or mobile retail paradigm, and perhaps on a large scale. This is our research question. So to answer this question, we try to build models. We try to consider several different store operating modes by deriving some spatial queuing models. And so by the way, I presented this work 2 months ago to the Canadian queuing conference. That was an amazing in-person conference held at McGill. And I realized that the queuing people quite like these ideas about spatial queuing models for urban retail. So I really hope that many of you can also join this stream of research. So in addition to, so these queuing models are to model customer satisfaction. And the second one is how to replenish inventories, as I mentioned. So then we derive a joint track store routing for replenishment. Based on these models, we prescribe some citywide store deployment schemes, followed by some case studies and insights. So this is the plan of this paper. And to be more specific, we really want to strike the balance, as we mentioned, between vehicle repositioning cost, customer utility of waiting and walking, and the inventory replenishment expenses. So these are the key trade-offs. So our work for sure is related to several streams of literature. So for example, it is related to the general stream of literature about retail operations. There are quite a few excellent literature review papers in the OM community. And to our knowledge, the only paper that are close is this one, Kim Glasser and co-authors. They talk about optimal truck locations for order pickups. So basically, they send a fleet of trucks for online order pickups. But in our case, we really want to enable those vehicles to not only for pickups, but also for selling products. So, and our model shared some similar flavor with those recent papers about last mile deliveries. And there are a lot of excellent papers along this line. I encourage you to explore. And so we try to claim that our model, this business model is enabled by autonomous vehicles. And if you're interested, there are quite a few exciting papers recently about autonomous vehicles operations management. And finally, methodology-wise, we are related to this emerging literature about spatial queuing models. So most of papers care about like ride-sharing systems or some online platforms for some online platforms. And but we really depart from that topic. We consider this urban mobile retail. Okay, so now let's move on to the main part of this paper. So this is the setup we consider. So imagine this is a city. This is a whole city. And we assume that there's a centralized retailer like a Stop and Shop. The retailer runs a fleet of wheeled autonomous vending stalls. Like this one, you can imagine this is like a autonomous vending stall or mobile store. So this cute, tiny store, it moves around to serve customers, which call the store from time to time. So we assume that these demands appear following a some point process. And in addition, because of the limited inventory, limited capacity, we assume a truck has to travel a tour from time to time to meet with those vending stores to replenish their inventories. And our goal is really to run this business model to maximize the profit, which is the revenue from selling products minus the cost of operating this business model, including dispatching the truck and those autonomous vending stalls. So if you really zoom into a single service zone, like by single service, I mean such a diamond. Okay, so if you really go to an individual service zone, so here's how it works. As I said, customers simply tap a button on their smartphone to call a nearby stall. So once the store arrives, customers can go and pick up and choose the products they want, like this. And we assume that customers are approximately uniformly distributed within the zone. So although the demands can be of arbitrary distributions over the entire city, we assume that within each single service zone, the demands are uniformly distributed. So this is the setup. So how to serve customers in an efficient fashion? so yeah, you maybe without modeling it, you can quickly think about what would be the best to serve those customers which are spatially distributed. So we consider three models. So for sure, maybe if you want to, if you're interested in this line of work, you can propose new modes. But yeah, so we just consider some quite simple modes. The first one is called on-demand, door-to-door. Basically, the mobile store moves to the doorstep of the customers by the order they request for shopping. So basically, first come, first serve. And in addition, the stores really go to exactly the doorstep of your house. So this is intuitive, right? The second mode is a bit more complicated. Again, it's first come, first served. But this time we allow the stall to move to be within our distance. Like let's allow the stall to move to be within 200 meters away from the customers, and the customers are supposed to walk our distance to meet with the stall. Okay, so this is no longer door to door. The customers have to walk a little bit to meet with the stall. The third mode is demand pooling. We can imagine that suppose this model is super popular with a lot of demands, then maybe it's beneficial to spatially and temporarily pool some demands so that you don't have to run the mobile store in a hectic fashion, right? You can stay here for a while, serve the demand around, and move to the next sub region. So we're gonna model all these three modes and compare these three modes. So as a warm up, let's first look at mode one. It's very simple. So again, this is the single service zone. There's a mobile store moving around. And so basically, you can imagine that the mean and the variance of door-to-door trip length, it is just the distance between any two random points within this service zone, right? Just the distance between any two random points. So you can easily derive that the mean and the variance of this random distance are as these two numbers. Suppose the edge length is big R, then the mean distance is 7 times square root of 2 divided by 15. And this is the variance. With this result, we can assume that this is a MG1Q basically. The customer demands arrive and following a Poisson point process. The service time is random. Basically, that is the random time it takes to move to the next point within the service region, plus the time on site for customers to select the products, right? So these are two components for service time and a single server. So then we have this very famous formula, PK formula for MG1Q to capture the mean waiting time. So basically, this part is the arrival rate. Lambda is the arrival rate in location X at time T. And this part captures the service time distribution. And in the denominator, this is really the rho is really the density of stalls in the city around this location. And this part is the arrival rate times the mean service time. So from this formula, you can imagine that if I increase the density of stalls deployed in the city, I can reduce the waiting time. Or if you can really, the other way, if demand is very big, that means that the waiting time will be very, very long. So these are the trade-offs. So far, nothing fancy. We just follow the traditional Q literature to model this on-demand door-to-door business model. Next, this is really a warm-up. Next, let's look at the second service mode. So recall that the second mode is called on-demand within radius. So in this case, instead of going to the doorstep, the exact location of the customer, now customer need to walk our distance to meet with the store somewhere here. Okay, so now I have a quiz for you guys. So can you guess what would be the distribution of the store locations in this service zone, in this entire service zone? Do you still believe, so previously, in the previous slides, so you can imagine that if the customer demands are uniformly distributed, then the store locations must be uniformly distributed as well, right? But in this case, do you still believe the same results? Do you still believe that the mobile store are going to be, the meeting locations basically are going to be uniformly distributed everywhere within the service zone? So at the first thought, I will imagine this way, but quickly you can realize that no, it's basically with this R distance, the mobile store will never move beyond this internal diamond, right? Because it doesn't help to move outside this part. You can always reach a customer by moving within the inner diamond. And then my next question for you guys is, do you think that, okay, so now I understand the mobile store will move within this inner circle, inner area, but will it be uniformly distributed? Will the meeting points be uniformly distributed? So actually this, we thought this way without much think in our initial draft. And then we got review comments and very insightful comments saying this is not necessarily true. So the referee argues that, guess that maybe the store will appear more frequently at corners or at the edges than in somewhere in the center. So we got stuck here for 2 months. We have no clue how to do it. So why is it difficult? Because now the meeting points become a Markov chain. Now it becomes dependent on your previous location, right? So for example, suppose this is the current customer place and you're gonna meet over here. And then this location will affect where you're gonna meet the next customer. It's spatially dependent. So this dependence, this staged coupling, all of a sudden makes this problem much more difficult. So we call this problem called a rendezvous problem. We call this meeting points as a rendezvous, and we want to find the mean and the variance of this stalled repositioning triplets. But because of this Markov chain feature, it becomes intractable, and we got stuck for 2 months, literally. And until one day, after a lot of a lot of tries, we are really excited to find a certain rule, and under this particular rule of picking the next rendezvous, the stationary distribution of those rendezvous, the meeting points, are again uniformly distributed, but this time within the inner diamond. So this is really some results we didn't expect, and but once we have it, we're super excited. So here's the rule, and the idea is the rule is simple. Suppose this circle is the current rendezvous, the current meeting place. Then I can divide this whole service zone into nine pieces. So S1, S2, etc., plus this part, inner part. So okay, so now suppose the next demand arises. Let's say suppose so we use an arrow and use the end of the arrow to indicate the location of the customer, the next new demand. And here's the rule of picking the rendezvous. If you're here, if you're in S3, then we ask a customer to move westwards. And here the arrowhead means the meeting point, the rendezvous. Okay, so on and so forth. Or if the next demand appears in S5, then the location, the direction of moving is northwards, and arrowhead is the next rendezvous. So if the customers and the store agree to follow this, we call it magnet route because it looks like a magnet, right? And basic customers move in the direction, roughly speaking, in the direction that minimizes the Euclidean distance. So following this rule, we are able to derive that the stationary distribution of rendezvous are again uniformly distributed within this inner diamond. So that really save us this uniform distribution over the inner diamond. And with these results, we're able to show that the mean and the variance of the reposition trip length can again be derived in closed form. But this time is much messier and it takes some derivations. But I have to say the key part is of this paper is really this part, is this theorem to show that we can still recover a uniform distribution, not for the entire surface zone, but within a inner diamond. Okay, so that was the mode 2. The third mode is demand pooling. So what is demand pooling is intuitively, so suppose we divide this surface zone into some small subregions, so that if the store stops here, it can serve the customer around within this local area, because again we assume that customers can walk our distance to meet the store. So in this case, the store moves from one subregion to another, following a fixed sequence. So yeah, by the way, if you're interested in this research, maybe you can come up with some smarter ways of dispatching the stores. But in this paper, we'll assume that it moves following a prefixed sequence. And within each subregion, we assume that the store broadcasts its service time window. So this TP is the promised service time. Once the store arrives, it stays for at least TP amount of time. So it guarantees to serve all customers that arrive within this time window, and it will move to the next subregion until after finishing the last customer that come within this time window. So this is extended stay. It's a random variable. It is used, this interval is used to finish serving all the customers. So again, we are able to derive a closed form expected waiting time and repositioning trip rate. But yeah, it's again quite messy. So a quick summary, we have considered 3 modes of serving customers, right? On-demand door-to-door, on-demand within radius, and this demand pooling business model. These are all about how to serve customers in an efficient fashion. What about inventory replenishment? So in addition, we derive a joint truck store routing model using the idea of continuous approximation. So basically, the idea is to derive, so we need to solve for an optimal tour of the truck so that the total cost of running this truck and running the stores, basically the no mobile stores to meet the truck. We want this total vehicle traveling distance to be minimized. Suppose you can find an optimal tour, then the cost comes from 2 parts. The first part is the trucking cost. CT is the per kilometer cost of moving a truck. And this part really is the cost of moving a store to meet a truck. So rho is the density of mobile stores in a city. And the DXL is the distance from a random location of the mobile store to the tour. Okay, for example, from here to somewhere here. This is like the distance you have to travel to meet the truck. We really want to strike a balance between the trucking cost and the store moving cost. And we base this result on some results from the literature, and we were able to derive that suppose without if we don't allow the stalls to move towards the truck, then this is the cost we pay. Okay, this is a classical result. And if we allow the stalls to move a little bit towards the truck tour, then this is the cost you pay. So basically, again, the CS is the repositioning cost of the mobile stores. So this big part is the same if you compare these two expressions. The only difference is from these two coefficients. And dividing this one by this one, you can see that this is the fraction of cost. Basically, this is like a cost saving factor. In general, the cost of moving a stall is much smaller than the cost of moving a truck for each unit distance. So that means that we really can save some routing cost by allowing the stall to move towards the truck rather than asking the truck to move to the exact location of the stalls. Okay, so this is the route. This is the idea of joint truck stall routing using some simple continuous approximation idea. Okay, so now we want to package all the results we have derived to a citywide stall deployment problem. So the profit function is really from the following components. The first part is the profit from sales. This is suppose this is the price, and this is the demand, customer demand, minus the cost of repositioning stores, minus the fixed cost of owning a fleet of stalls. So the unit is here is the dollar per kilometer squared. So here the rho is the density of the stalls deployed in the city. And here, this is the cost of inter-routing. And here, we assume that the customer demands, they are endogenous, depending on the weight and walk. So you can imagine that, suppose this is the raw demands. This demands, but customer has a choice probability. So if the customer weight, incurred weight is too long, that will hurt the demand. Or if R, remember R is the distance you want customer to walk to meet the stall. If R is super big, it means that the customer have to walk a long distance. So you can imagine in the winter time in Montreal, this is definitely unpleasant. So if R is very big, the demand can be smaller. So given the setting, we want to find an optimal deployment density, rho star in a city for deploying this mobile store business. So actually, you can solve this. You can solve for rho by a line search, very easy. Once you have all those models ready, okay, solving this problem is super easy. And it's a convex optimization problem. And so here are some numerical results. And this is probably, if you forget all the results, this is a single figure. I want you to have some memory. So the vertical axis is the profit density, basically the profit, and the horizontal axis is the potential demand, the raw demand. So by moving from the left to the right, representing a scenario of increasing demand of customer. Let's say this business model is getting more and more popular. So Let's first compare which lines. Let's first compare two lines, the black line and this dashed line. This dashed line is the baseline. It is the stationary business model, meaning that we do not allow the stores to move. So this is really the scenario of brick and mortar stores where you really cannot move stores around. And under this scenario, we optimize the store density, and this is the profit you have. The black line is the first service mode, the door-to-door on demand. So you allow the stores to move around and in a first come, first serve fashion. And you move the stores to the doorstep of customers. So this gap, this vertical gap measures the value of mobility, right? Because of the mobility, we don't have to build many stores, right? The stores can move to the customers. And because of this mobility, customers don't have to travel a long way to a brick and mortar store. So the demand can be bigger. Because of these effects, we can enjoy a higher profit. However, as the demand increases, you can see that the profit plateaus here. Ultimately becomes no longer favorable, because if the demand is very big, this door-to-door business model is too busy. It's too busy. You cannot, and the customer have to wait a long time if you stick to this on-demand and door-to-door policy. That's why we want to consider another alternative policy that is represented by this blue line. This is the first on-demand within radius. So again, the idea is instead of moving to the doorstep of each customer, let's find it somewhere in the middle. So the customer walk a little bit and the store move less. So this idea is it helps a lot, right? Especially when the demand is big. When the demand is big, and by saving this last 100 meters of moving to the customer doorstep, we can enjoy a much higher profit. So basically here, we strike a delicate balance between the customer wait and walk, right? By allowing customers to walk a little bit, we can reduce the customer wait and we can reduce the repositioning cost. All right, but if the demand further increases, probably we want to switch to the third option, that is the pooling option. So intuitively, by pooling the spatially and temporally adjacent demands, we are able to more easily handle big demands, right? So that is represented by this red line. And again, this vertical gap measures the value of pooling demands instead of serving demands in a first come, first serve fashion. So yeah, this is really the main message I want you to have. By flexibly dispatch the mobile stores between several service modes, we really can always maximize the profits. Okay, so yeah, so the overall benefit compared with the baseline, the stationary, can be huge. Okay, so we also consider some alternative scenarios to examine the impacts of service quality. And so in this baseline, this is the map of Toronto. So we tried this model, and we calibrate our model using some empirical evidence. And these dark green areas are where we prefer using the pooling service modes. Whereas other locations, those suburbs we prefer the on-demand mode because there are less demand. Those are like busy areas. So suppose in the future, customers are less willing to wait. So customers are more impatient. Then you can imagine that fewer areas will stick to the pooling mode, right? We really have to, if customers are impatient, we really have to dispatch the stores in the first come, first serve fashion in more areas. But the cost you pay is that you have to reposition your stores more frequently. Alternatively, if customers are less willing to walk, like customers in Montreal in the winter, then again, we need to switch to the on-demand mode in more of those areas to serve customers, to really get closer to the customers. And however, in quite the opposite, if customers are pickier in the sense that they want to spend a longer time doing shopping and at the mobile store, that means that we really want to have more areas in the pooling mode, right? Because longer shopping is aligned with the idea of pooling, right? By having customers shopping there, we can naturally wait for nearby customers to come over and do shopping. So my message is that we can really exploit the operational flexibilities of those mobile stores to accommodate different service quality requirements. So these are all the novel features of this mobile store idea that the traditional brick and mortar stores can never enjoy. Okay, so I think, we have plenty of time. So let me do a quick summary. So in this paper, we study the emerging store economy paradigm. So by the store economy, I mean this new paradigm of using autonomous vehicles for selling products in the open spaces in our cities. We try to model this business model, and we try to model store operations like on-demand, door-to-door, on-demand within radius, or pooling. We also model how to replenish inventories using a truck and taking advantage of the mobility of the vending stalls. The main message is that the store economy can be highly cost efficient because of the store mobility and the operational flexibilities, like a switching between pooling demands, a pooling mode, or first come, first serve mode. So yeah, that's the main message. And if you're interested, the paper is posted on our website. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wei, for your very interesting presentation.